Welcome to the Lifelong Fitness video on upper body exercises. Today I have a couple of volunteers that are going to help us out in demonstrating exercises.
Hi, my name is Scott McBride. I'm a freshman and I'm a civil engineering major.
Hi, I'm Ben Mead. I'm a sophomore marketing major.
The bench press exercise is a great exercise to developing upper body strength. What we can do is, to begin, is start off with body weight. And so it's a very technical lift, and so it's important to make sure we are doing it properly. So when we first do body weight for bench press, a common thing we can do is just the push-up. Okay? So when we do our push-ups, we have our hands just wider than shoulder width apart, and then what we do is, as we put our feet back, we want to have our chest, right, or our back and our hips nice in line, and then we're going to lower our chest to the ground, and then back up again. Okay? And so as far as the depth it goes, it depends on what you're trying to get to, and so I'll go and do a couple of them. So notice how the back is nice and flat. Okay? It's really good. The chin is up, the eyes are looking forward. That can be, you can do that if you would like. And so a variation to it, go ahead and take a break, is that you can actually move your hands a little bit wider. This would be a wide grip push-up. Go ahead and do one. And so a wide grip push-up is going to get a little more activation of the chest muscles, okay? And it's going to be a little bit more challenging in some ways, okay? And then the next variation is going to be a narrow grip, and so you keep your hands narrow. And so in this case, you're going to get a little more activation of your triceps, your elbow extensors, and it's also going to be a little more challenging than it would be for our normal grip. The next progression of bench press will be going to the rack and performing it with a barbell. And so when we do this, make sure that the rack is adjusted to the proper height so that it's not too close or too far away from your chest. So when we do the bench press, the first thing we want to do is make sure our hand placement is correct. And so depending on how long your arms are, it may be different. And so a good place to start off is there's usually a smooth part of a bar, most of the barbells we have here in the fitness center or in any fitness center. And then what we usually do is we're going to do a thumb's length away from the bar or from the smooth part of the bar to put our hands there. And put your hands there. Okay? And so as you lift the bar off of the rack, what you're going to do is you're going to keep the bar right next to the bottom of your chin, and so right above your chest. And then when you lower the bar, you actually lower it at a slight angle to where it touches the very bottom of your chest. So go ahead and try doing that. So you lower it at a slight angle and then back up again. That's a little bit too low. And so making sure that that angle is nice and smooth as you go down. Go ahead and do another one. Yeah, go and keep doing a few more of them. And so, yeah, we want to make sure that the bar is nice and controlled and the whole time and not going too fast on the way down or too slow on the way up. Also, notice how the back is flat against the bench. That is also an important thing, and not to arch the back as you go through. It's also important to spot this exercise because as any weight that goes over the head, if something happens, the weight could fall on the head and injuries could occur. And so with spotting the exercise, we want to make sure that we have what we call an alternated grip. So one hand is going to be facing towards you, and then one hand is going to be facing away from you. And then as the bar goes down, you follow the bar down all the way, and then all the way back up again, and making sure that if necessary, you can pull it up or pull it back to the rack. That's good. A variation of the bench press exercise is to use dumbbells instead of a barbell. And so here we have a bench. We're going to lay flat on the bench, as we did with before. So for now, we're going to have two dumbbells. It's a good way of actually working on stabilizing your arms, and so it works on different smaller little muscles in your shoulders. And so the same exact principles apply with our bench press that we talked about before. And so go ahead and lift the legs up or arms up. And then what you do is you're going to lower your arms to the sides slowly, out to the sides as low as you can go, and then back up again. And so notice how you want to have a nice controlled action. You don't want to get too far forward or too far backward because then it's a lot harder to control the bar, or too far out. If you're ever going to spot this, which is a good idea to do, you always spot a dumbbell on the wrist. And so as they go down, you have your hand close to the wrist and then back up again. That way, if for some reason the dumbbell falls, you can grab onto it and then keep it from falling. You never spot the elbow. If you spot the elbow, you can actually make things worse in a certain position. Okay? Another variation of doing this is actually just doing it with one arm. And so if you put one bone down, if you want to focus on one arm, or if say you have an injury at one side, you can still work out on the other side. Same thing applies. You can do a one arm bench press using a dumbbell. And this is a nice thing about dumbbells, is having that capacity to do that. A variation to bench press is called the incline press. And so with this, what we do is instead of having a flat bench, we just move the bench up a little bit so it's at an incline. And so here, the exact same things apply when it comes to our bench press as far as our hand placement goes. okay, with our thumb length away from the smooth part. Except for now, when we lift the bar off the rack and we lower it down, we just lower it straight down to our chest and then back up again. So there's no angle we use actually at our chest when it comes to the bench press here. With incline, it just goes straight up and down as we go through. It's a good variation to the bench press because it develops more of your upper body chest rather than the lower body chest. And so, as well as your anterior deltoids on the more of the shoulders. And so it's a good variation, and you can use it to mix it up for different exercises that actually develop upper body strength. Again, another variation that incline press is just using dumbbells instead of barbells. And so same thing applies, except for now, go ahead and start doing it. We're actually just going to use our dumbbells that actually can help with stabilization of the shoulder. As we talked about with the bench press before, if you want to do a single arm incline press, you can also do a single arm incline press. That is the nice thing about the dumbbells. They have a lot of variation we can use with them. Another exercise to develop upper body strength is called dumbbell flies. Okay? Flies can only be done using dumbbells, but it's a very good exercise in helping us with developing strength and flexibility in our chest. And so what we do here is go ahead and start actually straight up. Start with the weight straight up, and then we're going to have a slight bend of our elbows, and then we're going to just slowly lower the weight down towards the ground until we feel a nice stretch in our chest, and then back up again. Okay? And so make sure that the flies or the arms go straight down to the ground and that you're not locking your arms out, because that can be very difficult, a lot of stress on your shoulder. And so once again, slow controlled movement as we talked about before. If you want to do a variation of this, you can actually also do this on an incline, which will not show, but you can also do that if you want to mix it up just a little bit. The overhead press exercise is a great way to develop shoulder strength. It's very simple. In this case, we're using a barbell. We're going to start with it at our chest level right here. You want to start with the chest. Then all we're going to do is just press our hands over our head, maintain a nice neutral position with our back as well as our hands. Go ahead. So one thing to note, make sure that you are far enough away that you don't hit your chin, but also when you push it up, you don't push too far back so that the weight doesn't come behind you and that you injure your shoulders. A variation to the overhead press, instead of using a barbell, you can just use a dumbbell. And so this is actually very helpful because it helps work on stabilization as you talked about before. So same thing applies. You can hold the dumbbells to your chest and then go ahead and press them over your head. You can also do this with one arm if you would like it at a time. One thing I can mention as well, you can also exercise while sitting down. If for some reason you have a hard time stabilizing with the bar over your head, sitting down is also a very good option to begin with. The biceps curls exercise is good for developing the biceps, as it implies in the name. And so it's very simple. You hold, in this case, a barbell with your hands facing out or towards you or away from you. All you're going to do is just bring the bar up to your chest here. I'll make sure you're keeping your elbow from not moving at all. So instead of moving this forward up like this, we're going to make sure we're just moving the bar straight up and just moving moving the elbow joint. No shoulder movement at all. Once again, making sure you make sure that's going to be the bar moving smoothly on the way up and the way down in a nice controlled manner. Variation to biceps curls is just using dumbbells. In this case, you're going to do the exact same thing we talked about before, except for now we're going to use dumbbells. And so one variation is also just doing one at a time. So you can do one dumbbell curl at a time, which actually helps if you want to do a little bit more weight. Sometimes having that isolation actually helps you do a little more weight. But once again, it also works stabilization, and it's a good variation to it. The tricep extension is a good way to developing strength of the triceps, as the name implies. Okay? It's also a simple exercise. What we do is you start with our barbell, in this case, or excuse me, a dumbbell, in this case, over our head. What we're going to do here is we're going to slowly lower the dumbbells above or behind our back by flexing our elbows and working our triceps. Right? And so it's important to make sure that the shoulder joint doesn't move, that all we're doing is just going backward with our elbows, right? With the weight, in this case like that. And so also making sure that that weight, as you go backwards, stays really close to our head and not going too far back and putting our joints into awkward positions. A variation off of this is actually just to do one instead. So go ahead and drop one of them. And so in this case, you can actually grab the dumbbell with two hands and then do the exact same thing using two arms instead of one. And so it's a good variation. You can try it out depending on the comfortability of using one or two with stabilization and everything like that. The pullover exercise is another way to develop tricep strength. And so what we do here is we're going to lie flat on a bench with, in this case, a barbell in our hands at our chest. And what we're going to do here is we're going to just move the barbell up over our head as close to our chest and our face as possible without touching it, and then moving it back to as far as possible behind our head as we can. And so go ahead and do that. This not only just works the triceps, but it also works the shoulders as well. And so it helps with your range of motion, and it's a good variation that we talked about, or variation to the triceps extension that we talked about previously. You can use dumbbells as well using the pullover exercise. And so in this case, it's a good variation to that. In this case, we have two hands or two dumbbells here. And what you can do the same thing, and you're just going to start here and then go over your head in a nice controlled manner. Go ahead. Keeping those dumbbells as close to your face as possible. What you can also do is a variation to it is doing one at a time. Go ahead and do that, one at a time, going back and forth. So one at a time here. You can alternate that like we do with the biceps curls in order to actually isolate each arm. The dip exercise is a great way to develop strength in your upper body. It works your triceps and your shoulders. And so this machine right here, or this piece of equipment, is the way we actually can use dips. So we're going to give this a shot. What we end up doing is you're going to, depending on if these are, sometimes they're angled out a little bit, and so if you have shorter arms, you can go closer towards the base of this. If you have longer arms, you can go further out, depending on how wide appropriate may be. So all you're going to do is going to hop up on here, and then extend your arms, and then you're going to lower yourself down, and then push back up again. Okay? Very nice. The pull-ups or the chin-ups exercise is a great way to develop upper body strength of your back. And so when performing pull-ups, usually you have your hands facing outwards. That's what it refers to. Chin-ups will be referred to as your hands facing inwards. And so when we do pull-ups or chin-ups, we want to make sure that we start the hands all the way extended. We pull ourselves all the way up to our hands get to our chest, and then lower back down again. And make sure we want to have nice range of motion. And so for the first one is going to be a pull-up. I'm going to demonstrate two of them real quickly. As I start here, I'm going to pull myself straight up, all the way back down again, up, and then back down again. So that would be a pull-up because my hands are facing away from me. So if a chin-up would be hands facing towards me. Same thing, pulling it straight up, back down. The bent over row exercise is another exercise we can use to develop strength in our back. And so what we do with this, in this case we're holding a dumbbell or a barbell. We're going to bend our knees slightly, have a slight bend over of our waist. And then all we're going to do is pull the bar up to our chest in a nice controlled manner. So the idea is to make sure you have a nice neutral back that's locked, that's not hunched over, and also keeping a nice posture with your lower body as well. Variation to the bent over row exercise is using dumbbells instead of barbell. So the exact same things apply. Back flat, bent over slightly, bend knees, and then we're just going to pull the weights up to our hands. Once again, you can do this using one arm at a time or both arms, doesn't matter. So the dumbbells gives you that variation. The upright row exercise is another exercise we can use to develop strength of our back, particularly the upper back. And so in this case right here, we're going to hold a barbell down on our thighs, and we're just going to pull the barbell up to our chin with our elbows flaring out. So go ahead and do that. So make sure it's nice and controlled on the way up, on the way down. And so pulling it close to our body as possible, making sure that it's close to our chest and to our chin. A variation to the upright row is just using dumbbells like we did before. So we can pull this up to our chin using a nice controlled manner. Once again, the nice thing about dumbbells is if you would like, you can do one arm at a time, and it helps with stabilization of your shoulder joint. Go ahead and do one at a time. This machine right here is called the CABLECROSS machine. It's probably the most versatile machine we have in headlock. And so as you can see for the different pictures here and the different setups, you can do several exercises on this machine. One thing we're going to do today is going to be the lat pull down exercise, which is a great way to develop strength in our back. And so in order to get this in position, we actually can adjust this arm in two ways. This lever right here, if you push this or pull it up, you can adjust the arm inside and outside. And then here, if you pull this out, you can adjust the arm either lower or higher. Finally, you have different attachments here that actually attach up to the arm that can help you with different exercises. In this case, for the lat pull downs, we're going to use this attachment right here. There's a carabiner that you can attach it to. Let's help this out. So in this case, depending on how tall you are, most likely you're going to have to go on your knees, as we're going to have to do here. And so, very simple exercise. All we're going to do is going to start with the bar above us, and then we're going to pull it down to our chest. Okay? And so, there's two ways of doing this. We can pull it down to our chest in the front, or we can pull it down to our back in the very back of our neck. And so either way, it's going to work most of our back muscles. And this is actually a good way to start if you can't do pull-ups. If you're not able to do pull-ups, a lat pull down is a good way to start that, and then maybe you work yourselves into doing pull-ups.